Hello everyone and welcome again to our travel channel, Love More Travel. I'm David.
I'm Arzina.
And today we're going to talk about the 6 basics of travel planning. We talked about these a little bit in our first video, but we're going to go into a little more detail on this video. And those 6 basics are who, what, where, when, why, and how. And those are basic questions that everybody's heard in the past, but we're going to put those into thinking about planning travel. So let's start with, and honestly, all of these, we're going to talk about them separately, but you'll realize at the end, it all wraps up together.
It's also a really good idea, to sit down and maybe take a pen and paper and write these down. Maybe some of our tips, maybe what we have found that works for us might work for you. So go ahead, David, let's start.
Well, one thing I do want to say is we're talking about travel that works for us, okay? We are a married couple with grown adult children, so we don't have to worry about planning for a family type vacation with small children.
Right.
So everybody's situation is going to be different, but we're not really going to talk about family vacations too awful much. We're going to just briefly, so let's talk about the first, which is who. Who are you going to travel with? Is it family? And when we're talking family, we're talking about grown adults. We're not talking about going to Disney World.
No, like brothers, sisters, in-laws, mother,
Extended
father,
family, right.
Even grown kids.
Sure, your grown adult children, sure. Then the second one would be just if it's who, is it just you and your spouse, your partner, your significant other, or even, boyfriend, girlfriend, no matter what, if it's just a couple, meaning just 2 people and you're just going somewhere.
Yeah.
And then the last would be a group type scenario. Like when we got married in Cancun in 2019, there were 30 people, okay? So that's a completely different type of travel. Now, granted, everybody kind of booked their own. Some people came on a certain day, others came on and left on certain days.
Right.
But who you're traveling with is going to play a big factor into moving on to number 2, which is what?
Well, just to touch base on one, just my only, I would say, biggest tip is remember, this is your vacation. You're the one planning for it. So make sure that this works for you. It makes sense for you.
Right. Who you're going to travel with is important.
Who you're going to travel is, in my opinion, one of the top things to take into consideration, because that's important. You need to know who you're going to be around and whether they're compatible or not with you. So that's huge.
Right. So that kind of moves into number 2, which is what?
Yeah.
What type of vacation is this? Like I said, 2019, it was our wedding. Obviously, that was the focus of that trip, and everybody knew that when they came, they were going to our wedding. Other than that, we didn't have specific plans. Yeah. We had a dinner the night before the wedding that they were asked to attend, and of course, everybody did. And then the wedding itself. But everybody was free to do what they want. So what type of vacation is this? Yeah. Is this complete relaxation where you're just going to sit somewhere for 7 days and veg out? Is this an adventure vacation? We're going to a new place and we're going to explore. We're going to just immerse ourselves in the culture. This goes back to what we talked about last week, all-inclusive versus just, renting a hotel or an Airbnb. I think those are kind of the 2 main whats. Is it going to be something where you're exploring or vegging out? And you can kind of do a little bit of both on one vacation. Like maybe you take a week to an all-inclusive and you take 1 or 2 small trips. But what type of vacation is it that you need? Okay, so that's going to move on to number 3, which is where you're going. And again, remember who, what. So all these things are combined. Where are you going? Are you going to the beach? Are you going to an all-inclusive where you can sit for a week and not do anything?
Right.
Are you going to Italy? Like we went to Italy in 2019 after our wedding. And it wasn't just a chill out type vacation. We explored. We went every day. We had a new adventure.
Right. And some was beach-ish, like it was close to the water, and some were not. And we actually mentioned that in our first video about Italy. So yeah.
Yeah. So where you're going to go, you have to decide where you want to go. I touched on this briefly also earlier. Are you going out of the country? Are you comfortable where you're going out of the country? I've never been to Jamaica. I'm not saying don't go, but I've heard a lot of people that have said, if you go to Jamaica, you go to the resort and you don't venture out. I haven't been, so I can't say specifically, but some people say that about Mexico. We've felt so safe in Mexico every time we've gone. You just, do your research,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can go to Philadelphia, New York, LA, even Houston, where we live, and there's bad sections that you don't want to go to, given any time of day or night. So just, common sense plays a lot into travel. But so now maybe you've decided, who am I going with? What type of vacation is this? Where are we going to go? Then when? Okay? Couple things that dictate when is your job. Can I get the time off? How much time do I get off?
Is it the right time to take off based on work and family and life?
Right. Weather plays into the when. Do you want to go somewhere in the Caribbean in August or September when it's like the height of hurricane season?
Right.
We steer away from those. Even if you buy travel insurance, you've planned, you've paid all the money, you've taken the time off work, and the next thing you know, it got canceled due to weather.
Right.
Now, granted, you have no control over the weather, but if you
have
take
some
that out of the
control.
factor, right? So if you book your trip to the Caribbean in February, March, April, the weather's still nice, and you don't have to worry about hurricanes.
Right. And also when you're choosing to go overseas, a country that you don't know much about, look it up, look at the weather, see whether you're going to be comfortable traveling when it's in the 60s, which I don't think I would go, but I would rather be in the 70s and 80s, even 90s. I'm very comfortable with the heat. So again, you decide what makes sense for you.
Yeah, another big when is what they have. You have 3 different seasons. You have peak season, shoulder season, which is kind of like in between, and then low season.
Right.
So that can go back to all your other factors because it could dictate price. Some places in Europe, June, July, and August are so expensive and so crowded. I would never even dream of going. We went to Italy in May. It was the weather was a little chilly a few days, but there was no crowds, and the prices we paid were very, very reasonable. So that's your when. Then so number 5 is why. Why kind of goes back to what type of vacation, but maybe this is more a personal decision. Why am I taking this vacation? Do I just really need to get away from everything and everybody and turn off social media and get away from life? So why that's
why am I wanting to go explore a different kind or part of the world that I've never seen before? Like we did Southeast Asia. We went to the Philippines and Singapore. The why for us was the fact that we wanted to do something we've never done before.
Right. Why
we
go?
hadn't explored
Sometimes
before.
and here's an interesting thing that is kind of our mantra. We don't always ask why. We say why not? Why not?
Yeah, why not?
If you can afford it and it
Makes sense.
everything makes sense, why not? Why not go somewhere
What's the worst
different?
thing that can happen?
It's
You get
nice.
an experience, but
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to go to places you're familiar with, but expand your horizons, people.
Yeah.
The world is
100%.
so small. It seems so vast, but really it's small. And we can get into some stories about small world and running into people that you hadn't even met that recognized you somewhere.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story for another one.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap this up with how. Okay? How do you make all this happen? Well, you have to do your research, and I talked about some of the websites, Expedia, Kayak, Travelocity, watching videos on YouTube. But probably the biggest how is the financial. And we're going to get into a whole nother video on that in the upcoming future about budgeting. But how are you going to make this happen?
The B word.
The B word. Once again, it rears its ugly head. But you have to plan financially to make these things happen. So I'm not going to get into a lot of the budget thing, but that's the 6th and final factor. So again, who, what, where, when, why, and how.
And one thing about the how that I know that David will get into in future travel videos that we post, but one thing it's important, and budgeting is extremely important, even though I don't like the big bad B word, but having an amount that you're comfortable with that you're going to set aside every month is going to help you create that why. I mean that how, sorry, because how is you're going to basically put money aside every month
Right.
and be able to make it happen. So that's one of the very, very important part too.
Okay, so that kind of sums it up on the 6 travel basics. Any comments or suggestions are greatly appreciated. We're just trying to get a little traction here. And again, our market is adult travelers that don't have small children, that
Still
maybe
working, right?
Right, still
Yeah.
working, not retired,
Yeah.
still working, but have a few weeks, 3 to 5 weeks a year off for vacation. And what can we do to help you plan and make some of your bucket list items come true?
Yeah, and from the last video, we had a couple of comments
Yeah.
and we answered your questions. So if there's anything
good
you want to
feedback.
see, you want to hear anything in particular on the who, what, where, when, why, how, just let us know. We'll elaborate more, give you more details. We don't want to inundate you with too much information, but just let us know if you have any questions. We'd love to help you out.
Right. So until next time, live more,
Laugh more,
love more,
travel more.